My sister was back in the hospital again, and this time Mom said it was my fault, because I'd cracked a window to let in a little fresh air. She cornered me outside the room, voice sharp enough to slice. "We never should have brought you back. Your grandmother didn't raise you right. You came back just to torment your sister." Her eyes were hard, almost feverish with blame. "If Chloe gets worse, you'll pay for it too." That night, the ward finally went quiet. The kind of quiet that makes every small sound feel like it echoes. I was on the floor beside the bed, half awake, when the temperature in the room seemed to drop. The shadows near the wall thickened, and a man dressed in black stepped through it like the paint wasn't there at all. No footsteps. No door. Just there. He didn't look at my mother. He didn't look at me, either, not at first. His gaze locked on the bed. "Chloe Johnson," he said, calm and certain. "It's time. Come with me." Chloe was asleep, her lashes resting softly against her cheeks, her chest rising and falling in small, fragile breaths. She looked peaceful for the first time all day. I wasn't peaceful. I sat up so fast my spine popped, and I scrambled between him and the bed like my body could become a wall. "You've got the wrong person," I blurted. My voice came out thin, but it didn't shake. "Not yet. The one in the bed is my older sister." His eyes finally moved to me. My throat tightened. The name he'd spoken wasn't mine, but it didn't matter. It was the name he was here to take. I forced the words out anyway. "I'm the Chloe Johnson you're looking for." Behind me, Mom slept in the chair, her brow still pinched into a frown even in her dreams. I stared at her face and felt something hollow twist inside my chest. Maybe she really would be happier without me. "I'll go," I said quickly, before I could lose my nerve. "But can you? Can you give me 3 days? I want to celebrate my mom's birthday." He paused, as if that request didn't fit into the rules of whatever he was. "You're willing to take your sister's place?" he asked. I didn't hesitate. I nodded so hard my neck hurt. I looked at Chloe, at the faint color in her cheeks, the tiny smile she wore even in sleep. Mom had told her 3 fairy tales before bedtime. 3. As for me, I'd been curled on the cold floor the whole time, not daring to pull so much as a corner of the blanket closer. "I'll do anything," I whispered. I don't want her to cry. Not on her birthday." The man in black studied me for a long moment. Then, between his fingers, something flickered to life, a sliver of purple flame, no bigger than a fingernail. It curled into smoke and wrapped around my wrist, cool and weightless, sinking under my skin. A faint violet mark appeared there in the shape of a thin crescent, softly glowing. "This is a hidden soul incense," he said quietly. "When it burns out, 3 days from now, your time is up. I will come for you then." I touched the mark. It pulsed once, slow and steady, as if it had its own heartbeat. A countdown. I should have been terrified, but instead a strange calm washed over me. Grandma Evelyn used to say that when people leave this world, they become stars, watching over the ones they love most. If I became a star, would Mom finally look at me like I mattered? Even once would be enough. 3 days, he repeated. I nodded. 3 days. His figure faded back into the wall like smoke slipping through a crack. I sat there in the dark, my hand pressed to my wrist, watching the faint glow until my eyes blurred. 3 days. I had to make them count. By early morning, the sky outside the hospital windows was just starting to lighten when a violent cough yanked me awake. My whole body shook with it. My head felt full of hot sand, and when I tried to sit up, the room spun in slow, ugly circles. "What is with all that coughing?" Mom stood over me with her coat thrown on, irritation carved into every line of her face. "If you wake Chloe, I swear." She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't have to. I clapped a hand over my mouth, forcing the cough down until my chest ached and my eyes burned. "I'm sorry," I managed, my voice raw. Mom's lip curled. "You always have an excuse." Her gaze flicked toward the bed, immediately softening when she saw Chloe's sleeping face. "Get up," she snapped at me again. "Chloe will wake up soon, and she'll want veggie porridge. Go to the cafeteria. Tell them it has to be cooked soft." Then she turned away from me and immediately changed, like a switch had flipped. She sat beside the bed and dabbed Chloe's forehead with a damp cloth, her touch feather gentle. I pushed myself up from the floor. My knees screamed, stiff from kneeling so long. My skin hurt, hot and cold at the same time. My forehead throbbed with fever. Last time I told Mom my head hurt, she'd accused me of pretending to get out of chores. This time, if I said anything, she'd only get angrier. So I swallowed it down. In my pocket was a small, heavy tin, my coin stash. I'd been saving for almost a year, ever since I came back from Grandma Evelyn's, planning to buy a new backpack. The strap on my current one was held together with a safety pin, and kids at school loved to laugh about it. But it didn't matter anymore. I wouldn't need a backpack where I was going. I tightened my fingers around the tin. I was going to use those coins to buy Mom a birthday cake. Every year, on Mom's birthday, Chloe got to cut the cake. Chloe made the wish. And the wish was always for Chloe: get better, get stronger, get everything you want. I wanted Mom to make a wish for me too. Even if it was only an afterthought. I grabbed the thermos for the porridge and slipped out into the hallway. The hospital air felt like ice against my skin. My body shivered, and when I glanced at the purple mark on my wrist, a small, stubborn smile tugged at my mouth. 3 days. I had to move fast. The elevator took forever, so I ran the stairs instead, 19 floors. By the time I reached the cafeteria, my lungs burned like they'd been scraped raw. I had to stop at every landing, gripping the rail and swallowing the dizziness until the world stopped tilting. I handed the nurse at the counter the container and asked for the softest veggie porridge they could make. While it was cooking, I slipped outside with my coin tin and went to the bakery down the block, the one I'd walked past 100 times but never gone into. The window was full of cakes, glossy with fruit and cream. I pressed the tin onto the counter and poured out everything I had. The cashier counted, then gave me a quick, careful look. "This is the smallest one we've got for that price," she said gently. The cake she boxed up for me was barely bigger than my hand. The frosting was simple, the design a little crooked, nothing Instagram-worthy. But to me, it sparkled. I pictured Mom's face when I brought it out, a candle flickering on top. Maybe she'd smile. Maybe, just once, she'd say my name the way she said Chloe's. I hugged the box to my chest all the way back, shielding it with my body like it might shatter. When I finally pushed open the door to the room, porridge in one hand and cake in the other, Dad was already there. He was holding a glossy pink bag with the logo of the newest tablet on it. Chloe was propped up in bed, giggling as she hugged it to her chest like it was a stuffed animal. "Thank you, Dad. I love you." Dad smiled like nothing in the world mattered more. He leaned forward and tapped the tip of her nose. "If Chloe's happy, and if it helps her feel better faster, then it's worth it." Mom sat nearby rubbing lotion into her hands. The warm scent filled the room, familiar and comforting. Like home. A home I didn't belong in. I stood there with the porridge, now lukewarm, not sure where to put myself. "You're back." Dad glanced at me, and his smile dimmed slightly, like he just remembered I existed. He reached into a bag at his feet, pulled out a plain bread roll, and tossed it toward me without looking. "You haven't eaten yet, have you?" It hit my chest and dropped into my hands. The packaging had a bright yellow discount sticker. Clearance. Close to expiration. On Chloe's bedside table sat a neat slice of tiramisu and a little carton of imported milk. Chloe and I were twins. But she'd been sick since we were little, and somehow that meant everything: the money, the attention, the softness belonged to her first. Including Mom and Dad's love. "Thanks," I whispered, bending to pick up the roll properly. It was food. Grandma Evelyn always said to be grateful for what you have. "Dad," Chloe said suddenly, pushing her tablet aside with a pout. "My mouth tastes weird. I want those candied chestnuts from the corner stand. The ones in the paper bag." Outside, rain hammered the window in thick sheets. The sky looked bruised and heavy. Dad hesitated, eyes flicking to the storm. "Chloe, it's coming down hard. What if we wait until it slows?" Chloe's eyes filled instantly. "No. I want them now." Then she coughed, small and delicate. The room panicked like an alarm had gone off. Mom rushed to pat her back. Dad paced, hands twisting. Okay, Dad said quickly. I'll go buy them." He reached for the umbrella by the door, then his gaze snagged on me in the corner. He stopped. "Lily," he said. "My real name. The one that reminded everyone I wasn't the sick one. Your sister wants chestnuts. Go get them." Your mom and I need to stay here with Chloe. His tone made it sound reasonable. Logical. You're young. You're fast. A quick run won't hurt. I wanted to say I didn't feel well. I wanted to say my head was spinning and the rain looked dangerous and my bones felt like they were full of sand. But Dad's eyes told me this wasn't a request. So all my words collapsed into one. Okay. I set down the roll I'd barely bitten into and stepped into the rain. I didn't take the umbrella. It was right there by the door, but Dad hadn't told me to take it, and I didn't dare. The rain hit me like fists. Within seconds my clothes were soaked through, clinging to my skin. Water ran down my face and into my eyes, stinging. The world blurred, and my dizziness got worse with every step, but I kept moving. I was afraid the chestnut stand would close. Afraid Mom would call me useless. The corner stand was 3 blocks away. The streets were flooded past my ankles, and my shoes filled with cold, muddy water. When I finally reached the little cart, dripping and shaking, the owner, Mrs. Thompson, stared at me like I'd wandered in from another world. Sweetheart, she said gently, no umbrella in weather like this? Where are your parents? I forced a smile that didn't reach my eyes. There. At the hospital. My sister's sick. Her expression softened. She packed the chestnuts into a paper bag and pressed it into my hands. The warmth stung my frozen fingers. Hold it tight, she said. And watch your step. I hugged it to my chest and shielded it with my body on the way back, bending forward against the rain. I ran too fast. My foot slipped in a puddle, and I went down hard. Pain shot through my knee, bright and hot. For a second, I couldn't breathe. The first thing I did wasn't to check myself. It was to check the chestnuts. The bag wasn't torn. The paper was damp but intact. The warmth still seeped through. I exhaled, shaky with relief, and limped the rest of the way back. When I entered the room, I was drenched, hair plastered to my cheeks, teeth chattering so hard I could barely speak. Mom's face tightened instantly. What took you so long? She hissed, careful to keep her voice low. Chloe just fell asleep. Walking around like an elephant, do you want to wake her up? My hands froze midair as I held the bag out. Dad was on the sofa, scrolling on his phone, not looking at me. Put it on the table, he said flatly. Then, like an afterthought, go dry off. Don't get Chloe sick. No one noticed my scraped knee. No one asked if I was cold. I set the chestnuts on the table like an offering and slipped out of the room, huddling on a chair in the hallway, hugging my wet clothes to myself for warmth. Through the little window in the door, I could see the paper bag sitting untouched on the table. Chloe wouldn't eat them when she woke up. She never ate the things I brought back soaked in rain and sweat. She'd wrinkle her nose and say they were cold or weird. Someone would sigh. Someone would toss them later. The thing I'd run through a storm to get would probably end up in the trash. I pulled my legs up onto the chair and wrapped my arms around them. On my wrist, the purple mark had shrunk. A third of it was already gone. Hey, I whispered that night, staring up at the dark ceiling of the little companion room where they let me sleep among the folding chairs and extra blankets. Mr. Reaper. Whatever you are. Do people really have souls after they die? Silence answered me. I pressed my hand over my wrist. I just want to know, I said softly, if Mom will cry. Even once. No one answered. Only the faint hum of the hospital lights and the distant echo of footsteps on linoleum. The third day was Mom's birthday. My fever had eased a little, but my head still floated like I was underwater. The purple mark was now only a thin sliver, like the last breath before a candle goes out. At the nurse's station, I begged until Nurse Jenkins finally sighed and relented. An hour, she said, softer than she meant to be. That's all I can do. Her eyes scanned my face. Honey. You look pale. You should be resting. She reached up and brushed the back of her fingers against my forehead. The touch was so gentle it startled me. I flinched away before I could stop myself. I wasn't used to kindness landing on my skin. Thank you, I whispered. I just want to cook my mom a meal. It's her birthday. With all my remaining change, I bought groceries from the little market nearby. Everything Mom liked, sweet and sour ribs, steamed fish, tomatoes and eggs. Grandma Evelyn used to say the fastest way to someone's heart was through their stomach. I didn't know if I could win Mom's heart. But I wanted to try. In the tiny staff kitchen, Steam and smoke made me cough. My hands trembled as I chopped, and I had to keep stopping to steady my breathing. Oil spat at my wrists. My eyes stung. I moved carefully, meticulously, like if I did everything perfectly, the world might finally soften toward me. Blanch the ribs. Stir the sugar till it turned amber. Add vinegar and soy, let it simmer low and slow, the way Grandma had taught me. Lay the fish on the plate just right. Scramble the eggs until they were fluffy, not dry. Every step felt like a test. When the food was done, I packed it into insulated containers and carried them back, my arms aching. In the room, Chloe was leaning over the edge of the bed, reaching for a glass of water on the table. "Don't move," I said quickly, setting the containers down. I'll get it." I poured hot water into the glass and turned to hand it to her. Her fingers, weak and limp, didn't grip it properly. The glass tipped. Hot water splashed down, onto my foot. Pain flashed bright and immediate, climbing up my leg like fire. I sucked in a breath. But Chloe screamed first. "It's hot. It's so hot." She clutched her hand and cried like she'd been burned, even though the spill had barely touched her. It was a performance I'd seen my whole life. A fragile, trembling act that always worked. The door flew open. "What happened?" Dad rushed in, eyes sweeping the scene. He saw Chloe crying. He saw broken ceramic on the floor. He didn't see me. He didn't ask. His hand hit my shoulder in a hard shove. "She's already sick and you're making her struggle like this?" I stumbled, my heel catching on the edge of the bed. I went down hard. My palm landed on a jagged shard of the broken mug. A hot sting tore through my hand. Warmth spread instantly. For a moment, the room tilted and the sound dimmed, like my body didn't want to stay present. "No," I tried to say. "It's not." But my throat tightened, and the words fell apart before they could become a full sentence. Grandma Evelyn used to say, explaining is talking back. Kids who talk back don't get loved. So I swallowed the truth. I watched Dad cradle Chloe's perfectly fine hand, blowing on it like she was made of glass. Something inside me cracked so quietly I almost didn't feel it. "I'm sorry," I whispered, lowering my head as tears slid down my face. I didn't hold it steady. "It's my fault." If I admitted fault, the storm would pass. If I didn't argue, Mom's birthday wouldn't be ruined. Dad's anger eased, just like I'd predicted. "Move," he snapped. "Don't stand there." I got up carefully, ignoring the sharp ache in my hand, and picked up the broken pieces one by one. I did it slowly, like a ritual. Like cleanup could erase what had happened. When the floor was clean, I wiped my palms on my jeans and pushed the insulated containers forward. Mom walked in just then, drawn by the commotion. Her eyes narrowed at the mess, at Chloe's tears, at Dad's tension. But when she saw the containers, her expression softened a fraction. "Mom," I said, voice small. "I made your favorites. Happy birthday." She didn't scold me. She sat down at the little fold-out table while I laid out the dishes one by one. Sweet and sour ribs, glistening in their sauce. Steamed fish sprinkled with scallions. Tomatoes and eggs, the colors bright. At dinner, Chloe chattered nonstop, telling Mom stories, laughing, making the room feel warm in a way I never could. I sat in the corner with a bowl of plain rice gone cold, chewing quietly. Then, without looking at me too long, Mom picked up her chopsticks, lifted a rib, and placed it into my bowl. "All right," she said, almost awkwardly, as if the kindness didn't fit right in her mouth. "Stop looking so miserable. It's a good day. Eat more." My breath caught. "This tastes pretty good," she added after a bite, her voice softer. "It reminds me of your Grandma Evelyn's cooking." Tears spilled instantly, hot and uncontrollable. It was the first time Mom had ever praised me. I lifted the rib to my mouth and tasted salt, too much salt, and the bitterness of tears I couldn't swallow fast enough. But I chewed carefully anyway, like the moment might vanish if I rushed it, like I could make it last by being gentle with it. I didn't even want to spit out the bone. This was probably the best thing I'd ever eaten in my whole life. And deep down, I knew it was going to be the last. After dinner, the sky outside had turned completely black. The hospital lights cast everything in sterile yellow. I slipped back to the little companion room and pulled out a small box from under my fold-up bed. The cake I'd bought for Mom. It was only palm-sized, and the frosting had smudged on one side where it had been pressed in my backpack. The design was simple: no gold leaf, no edible flowers, no black swans made of chocolate like the fancy cakes in the downtown bakery. But I had chosen it with every coin I had. I straightened my red padded jacket, the one Grandma Evelyn had sewn for me before she passed. The stitches were a little crooked, the flowers a little uneven, but it was the nicest thing I owned. It was too warm for the season, and I knew I looked ridiculous in it, but I didn't care. If I was going to leave, I didn't want to look too shabby on my way out. I carried the tiny cake back to the room and set it carefully on the table. "Mom," I said quietly. "Make a wish." I lit the single candle. The little flame wobbled in the air conditioning, casting soft light over Mom's face. For a second, it blurred her features, smoothing the exhaustion, the worry, the lines of anger I knew too well. Chloe leaned over to look. Her nose wrinkled. "That's really small. And kind of ugly. The frosting looks like it's melting." "Mom, I want one of those fancy cakes next time. The ones with the black swan on top from that 5-star place on Instagram." Dad immediately reached out to stroke her hair. Okay. I'll buy you one tomorrow. We'll just make do with this one tonight." Your sister tried. Make do. In their eyes, I was always make do. Mom didn't say anything. She folded her hands, closed her eyes, and leaned toward the candle. "I hope Chloe gets better," she murmured. "I hope she stays healthy, lives a long life, and never has to suffer again." She blew out the candle. Beside her, I folded my own hands in my lap and made a wish silently. "I hope your wish comes true, Mom. And maybe, in the next life, if you have another daughter, you'll love her a little more. Even if it's only a tenth as much as you love Chloe." Mom cut a tiny piece of the cake, took a small bite, then set her fork down. "Too sweet," she said, wiping her mouth. "I'll grab an apple for Chloe." She turned away, already reaching for the fruit. Behind her, the purple mark on my wrist flickered. Almost gone. A thin chill rose from the soles of my feet, creeping up my legs, my spine. The world around me felt both sharp and distant, like I was inside a glass box watching my life from the outside. I put my chopsticks down. My fingers felt light. "I'm a little tired," I said, my voice barely more than a breath. "I'm going to sleep, Mom." Go, she replied, not looking back. She was focused on slicing the apple into perfect little pieces for Chloe. "Don't lock the door. We still need you to listen for Chloe at night. If she's uncomfortable, you get up and come get us." "Okay," I whispered. I looked at them one more time, Mom leaning over Chloe, feeding her apple slices, Dad on the sofa, watching them with soft eyes. I tried to carve the scene into my heart. Then I turned and left. In the small companion room, surrounded by boxes and extra linens, I made my bed neatly. I folded the hospital blanket with crisp corners, smoothing out every wrinkle. It felt like preparing a room for a guest who would never arrive. I hesitated at the door, my hand on the lock. Mom's words echoed in my ears. "Don't lock the door." I turned the lock anyway. This was the one time I was going to disobey her. I didn't want anyone to see me when I left. I didn't want my last moment to be ugly and frightening, something they'd never unsee. If I had to go, I wanted to go quietly. I lay down on the narrow cot, pulled the blanket over my legs, and looked at my wrist. The last sliver of purple light trembled like the end of a sparkler. "Grandma," I whispered into the dark. "If I really become a star, please help me not to be scary." The mark went out. The room fell very, very still. From the corner, the shadows thickened. The man in black stepped out of them, just as silently as he had the first time. "Chloe Johnson," he said. "That's my sister's name," I murmured. "But I'm the one who made the deal. I'm Lily." I pushed myself up to sitting and gave him the best smile I could manage. My hands shook only a little. "I'm ready," I said. "Let's go." He looked at my face, then at my hand, the one still faintly bandaged from the cut, the skin around it raw and red. For a moment, something unreadable flickered in his eyes. Then he lifted the chain in his hand. It felt cool as it settled around my neck, not choking, not painful. Just final. Like stepping through a doorway and closing it behind you. My body went light. The pressure in my chest eased. The ache in my head floated away. I blinked, and suddenly I was standing beside the bed, looking down at myself. At the little girl in the red padded jacket, hands folded neatly over her chest, face pale but calm, lips curved in the faintest hint of a smile. "Come," the man in black said quietly. We stepped through the wall. In the next room, separated from mine by nothing but plaster and paint, Chloe lay in her hospital bed, breathing in short, raspy gasps. The monitors at her side flashed warning reds and angry beeps. Then, like someone had flipped a switch, the lights on the monitors went green. The harsh sounds smoothed into steady rhythms. Her breathing evened out. Color returned slowly to her cheeks. Doctors rushed in, shouting words like unbelievable and miraculous. Nurses checked her vitals again and again, each time looking more stunned. "It's a medical miracle," one of them breathed. Outside their circle, Mom and Dad clung to each other, shaking with relief. "Thank God," Dad choked out. "Thank God, our baby's okay." Thank you, Mom sobbed, barely able to stand. "She's finally better." Their joy seeped through the wall like warmth. In the cramped companion room on the other side, my body lay alone on the cot, cooling slowly under a neatly folded blanket. I watched them laugh and cry over Chloe, and a strange, quiet peace settled in my chest. I had finally given Mom the best birthday present. She would never know it came from me. "Let's go," the man in black said again. I nodded. We walked away from the hospital, from the city, from everything. Cold mist pressed against my skin. When I opened my eyes again, the world was gray. Fog curled around my ankles, thick enough that I couldn't see where the ground ended. Somewhere in the distance, voices rose and fell, crying, pleading, whispering, like the sound of 1,000 televisions left on in different rooms. The man in black still held my hand, only now, I noticed the chain had vanished. His grip was surprisingly steady and warm. "Where are we?" I asked. "On the other side," he said. "Don't be afraid. You didn't do anything wrong." Ahead, a long bridge stretched into the fog, its stone worn smooth by feet that had walked it long before me. Below, dark water churned, and now and then the surface broke in strange, twisting shapes. I shivered and pressed closer to him. He glanced down. "The ones below are for people who hurt others and never felt sorry," he said. "You're not going there." We crossed the bridge together. At the far end rose a massive hall, its roof lost in the mist. 3 glowing characters hung above the entrance, ones I couldn't read, but I felt the weight of them in my bones. Inside, the air smelled of ink and old paper. Behind a high desk sat a towering figure with a thick beard and sharp, tired eyes. He flipped through a heavy ledger, his brows knitting tighter with each line. His gaze snapped up when he saw us. He slammed his palm down on the desk. The sound cracked through the hall like thunder. "Ridiculous." His voice boomed. "Completely ridiculous." I flinched. He jabbed a finger at the man in black. "The Book of Life and Death clearly says Chloe Johnson's time was up. And yet you drag here." His eyes flicked to me. "Lily Johnson. This child has 70 more years, a path as a teacher, grandchildren, a full life of her own. What kind of reaper are you? Are you blind?" The man in black dropped to his knees so fast I heard them hit the stone. He bowed his head, trembling. "Your Honor," he said, voice shaking, "it wasn't a mistake." The child volunteered. She insisted she was the older sister and begged to trade her life for Chloe's. I could not refuse without your judgment. The bearded man, who I was guessing was some kind of king of this place, looked at me. His eyes, dark and deep, were full of something that wasn't anger. "Is that true?" he asked. "Little girl, did you do this willingly?" I swallowed hard. My knees wanted to fold too, so I let them. The cold floor bit into my skin as I bowed my head. "Yes," I said quietly. "Your Honor." "Why?" His voice softened, just a tiny bit. "Why would you give up 70 years for a sister whose time was already marked?" "I'm the older one," I said. "Grandma always told me older siblings should give way. Chloe's been sick since we were born. Mom and Dad. They can't live without her." I lifted my head. Tears blurred my vision, but my lips tried to smile anyway. "I'm healthy. I can handle more. If someone has to go, it should be me. Please. Give my years to her." The hall went very still. Even the little attendants with their stacks of scrolls had stopped moving, their round eyes fixed on me. The king of this place sighed, the sound rolling out heavy and tired. Foolish child, he murmured. There is no law that says an older sister must die for a younger one. He raised his hand. In the center of the hall, the air shimmered, then smoothed into a broad, shining surface, like a mirror made of water and smoke. Open the mirror of the living world, he said. Let us see whether those two are worth such loyalty. If they are not, I will make the decision myself. The surface of the mirror rippled. Scenes from the hospital flickered into view. The room was chaos. Police. Doctors. Nurses. The little companion room where my body lay had been flooded with people. Dad was on the floor, legs sprawled in front of him, eyes empty. His hands were twisted in the edge of my red jacket like he was afraid someone would take it away. Mom clutched at the doctor's collar, her hair wild, her voice hoarse. How can it be heart failure? He's only 12. She was always strong. You must have misdiagnosed. You must have done something wrong. The doctor shook her off with a weary frown and slapped a report onto the table. Ma'am, please calm down, he said firmly. The examination is clear. He pointed to the lines of text, his tone growing more clipped with each word. Long-term malnutrition. Severe anemia. Almost no food in her stomach. Signs of old injuries and poorly healed fractures. On top of that, she had advanced pneumonia and a high fever that went untreated for days. Her lungs were badly infected. He looked up, eyes hard. How did you not notice she was this sick? This goes far beyond not paying attention. This looks like serious neglect. The word hit like a hammer. Neglect. Mom went completely still. Her hand shook as she reached for the report, eyes skimming over the phrases, malnutrition, infection, untreated fever, repeated injuries, as if they were written in a language she'd never seen before. She said her head hurt, Mom whispered. She said she was tired. I thought she was faking to skip chores. She said she was hungry and I gave her bread. Her voice crumpled. A police officer stepped forward, holding something small and worn. We found this under the pillow, he said. It's her journal. He handed it to Dad. Dad's hands shook as he flipped it open. February 10th. Today I took the blame for the broken vase. Mom called me bad luck, but I didn't cry. I'm the big sister. I have to protect Chloe. Does that make me good? May 8th. Dad bought me a clearance bread roll. It was a little stale and not very sweet, but I was happy. Maybe Dad still loves me a little. August 15th. Grandma, I miss you. Mom hugged Chloe so long today. I wanted a hug too, but I was dirty from chores. Mom doesn't like it when I'm dirty. October 1st. I wonder. If I wasn't here anymore, would Mom miss me? Even for 1 minute? Dad's fingers slipped. The notebook fell to the floor with a dull slap. A sound tore from his chest, raw and broken, something between a sob and an animal's cry. Lily, he gasped. My Lily? I was wrong. I was so wrong. I don't deserve to be your father. Mom snatched up the journal, clutching it to her chest like a life raft. She read page after page, her body shaking, tears pouring down her face until she could barely see. Give her back, she begged the empty air. Please, give my baby back. I'll be better. I swear, I'll be better. I'm not a mother, I'm a monster. The mirror shifted again. It replayed the night of the storm, the way I'd limped through the rain with a chestnut bag clutched to my chest, the way I'd fallen, the blood mingling with muddy water, the way I'd stood in the doorway dripping, knee red and raw, while they scolded me for being loud. Mom flinched when she saw it. She bit down on her own hand, as if trying to smother a scream. How could I have just glanced at her? She whispered. She was bleeding. She was bleeding and I never even looked. The scene shifted to the spilled water, the crash of the mug, the shove, the fall, the shard cutting into my palm. My small body hunched over the floor, picking up broken pieces while Dad cradled Chloe's uninjured hand, blowing on it tenderly. Dad grabbed his own hair with both hands. I didn't see, he choked. I didn't see, if I'd known, I would've. He couldn't finish. He dropped to his knees in front of the mirror, bowing his head to the invisible floor again and again, each impact dull and desperate. The last scene stopped at the moment that had changed everything, me in the dark, bargaining with the man in black. Sir, my voice echoed inside the mirror. I won't run. My life is yours. Outside the glass, Mom collapsed fully, pressing her forehead to the cold surface of the mirror they couldn't actually touch, her shoulders shaking. No, she sobbed. No, 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 Lily, don't. Mom won't have birthdays anymore. I don't need cake. I don't need anything. I just need you alive. Take my life, take all of it, just give my daughter back, please. She sobbed out all the things I had once imagined hearing and never had. The king of this place watched quietly. When the mirror finally went still, he closed the great book on his desk with a heavy thud. He turned to me. You've seen it, he said. Their regret is real. Their love for you exists, twisted and late, but it exists. If you wish, I can set this right. You can go back. He gestured toward the mirror, where Mom and Dad still knelt, their faces wet and twisted with grief. Since the Reaper took the wrong child, the order can be restored, he continued. Your 70 years can be returned to you. Chloe's life can end where it was meant to. The balance will be corrected. You will live, become a teacher, have students and children of your own. All you have to do is say yes. The word yes trembled on the edge of my tongue. Go back. Live. Teach. Have a family. I imagined it, stepping into that hospital room alive again, watching Mom and Dad's faces light up, feeling their arms around me, hearing them swear they'd change. But then I imagined something else. I imagined Chloe's bed empty. The monitors quiet. Mom's sobs turned on me instead. Why wasn't it you? If you hadn't been there, she'd still be alive. You stole her life. I imagined walking through our house with her shadow gone, every glance from my parents soaked in regret and something uglier, something I recognized all too well. Blame. My voice cracked. I swallowed and tried again. If I go back, I said slowly, they'll remember what they did. They'll feel guilty because I died. But if I'm alive and Chloe's gone? I wrapped my arms around myself. They'll hate me, I whispered. They'll wish it had been me. They'll never say it, but I'll see it every time they look at my face. I'll never be anything but the mistake that survived. I lifted my head to meet the king's eyes. I'm tired, I said. The words came out small, but they didn't shake. I'm tired of trying to be enough. Of guessing what will make them like me. Of being the extra one. I shook my head. Thank you, I said quietly. But no. I don't want to go back. I don't want to be a daughter or a sister again. Not in that house. The king studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded, very slowly. Very well, he said. If that is your choice, I will not force you. He lifted his hand, and the mirror clouded over, hiding my parents from view. Since you refuse to return, he continued, the cycle will move on. You will walk the road to your next life. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. The road. Away from the hospital. Away from their faces. Away from the feeling of always reaching and never quite touching. I turned toward the dim path that led away from the hall. Wait, the king said suddenly. I stopped. Although you won't return to the living world, he said, you did share your life willingly and endured far more than you were given. That merit is not nothing. His voice softened in a way that made my throat sting. I will grant you one last dream, he said. A chance to say goodbye. To them, and to this life. I hesitated. Then I bowed deeply. Thank you, I whispered. Snow. When I opened my eyes again, the sky was full of it, soft, slow flakes drifting down in a world that felt quiet and clean. I didn't feel cold. I looked down at myself. My red padded jacket was bright against the white, its fabric clean and whole. No stains. No ripped seams. My hands were smooth, uncut, free of bandages and bruises. When I smiled, I could feel two little dimples in my cheeks, the ones Mom used to say were wasted on such a stubborn child. Footsteps crunched in the snow behind me. Lily? I turned. Mom and Dad stood there, both still wearing the clothes from the hospital, though they looked strangely out of place in the endless white. Their eyes were swollen and red, their faces lined with things I'd never seen on them before. Fear. Regret. Hope. Lily, Mom choked, stumbling toward me. Baby, don't go. Please. Come back with us. We'll do better. I'll do better. I'll buy you a new backpack. I'll make your favorite ribs. I won't yell at you again, I swear it, just come home. Dad's voice cracked. You can hate us, he said. You can be mad at us. Just stay. Let us try again. Please. I took one step back. Mom. Dad. They froze. I smiled at them, a small, steady smile that felt different from every smile I'd forced in that hospital. This time, I said softly, it really isn't your decision. Tears blurred my view of their faces. I stepped forward anyway and reached up, wiping a tear gently from Mom's cheek with my thumb. Her skin was warm. I know you love Chloe, I said. I love her too. That's why I gave her my life. That was my choice, not yours. Don't hate yourselves forever for something I chose. Mom shook her head, sobbing. No. No, no, no. Listen, I said, my voice trembling. In the next life. If we meet again, please don't lose me this time. I don't need to be the favorite. I just want to be seen. I turned to Dad. Dad, I said. When you're back home. Maybe quit smoking. It's bad for your lungs. And Chloe shouldn't be around it either. His face crumpled. And those chestnuts from the corner stand? I added, trying to laugh through the tightness in my throat. They were actually really good. You should try them sometime. Don't let them go to waste again. He reached for me, his hands trembling. I stepped back out of his grasp. The snow was falling faster now. The world around us blurred at the edges. Time to go, I said gently. Take care of Chloe. Take care of yourselves. Try to be kinder to the next me. Wherever she is. Lily. Mom screamed. Lily, don't. Her voice blew away on the wind. My body turned lighter and lighter, the colors of them fading, their cries stretching out thin and far. The last thing I saw was the way they reached for me, hands empty, eyes overflowing. Then everything dissolved into white. When they woke up, it was the hospital lights and the smell of disinfectant. Both Mom and Dad jerked upright at the same time, gasping, their faces wet with tears. In Mom's hand was something that hadn't been there before. A simple little charm made of rough red string, a piece not clumsily braided, the kind you could learn from a library book or a YouTube video. I had worked on it under my blanket at night in Grandma's house, fingers fumbling, determined to make something pretty for Mom's birthday. I had never found the courage to give it to her. Now it was in her palm, warm, as if it had just been held in small, careful hands. She pressed it to her chest and sobbed until she passed out again. On the other side of the hall, at the edge of the bridge we'd crossed, an old woman waited behind a stone table, a bowl of swirling, milky liquid in her hands. She smiled at me, her eyes kind and knowing. Little one, she said, the king granted you something special. You don't have to take just any path this time. You can choose what kind of life you want next. She tilted the bowl, and the surface shimmered, showing flickers of possible lives, warm houses, soft beds, parents lifting a child into the air and spinning her around, classrooms full of laughing students, friends linking arms on a sunny street. I can send you to a good home, she offered. Loving parents. A warm bed. You'd be their little princess. No hunger. No cold. No shouting. Only love. It sounded like everything I had ever wanted. For someone else. I stared at the bowl, my chest tight. Being human. I began, then stopped. I tried again. Being human is hard. The old woman's eyes softened. You have feelings, she said. You get to see this world. Isn't that worth something? It is, I said. But I thought of all the times I'd told myself to be good, to be quiet, to be useful, to be less trouble than I was worth. I thought of how love had always felt like a prize dangled just out of reach, something I had to perform for and never quite earned. What if I end up somewhere like before? I asked. What if I'm not enough again? What if I try my best and it still isn't what they want? My voice dropped to a whisper. I don't know if I can do that again. The old woman sighed. Then what do you want to be? She asked. I thought of the night I'd opened that hospital window and felt the wind rush in, cool, alive, impossible to hold. Mom had yelled at me, but for a moment, standing there with the air surging over my skin, I'd felt free. I thought of how the wind could slip through cracks, dance with leaves, whistle past skyscrapers and cornfields and oceans, touching everything and belonging nowhere. My heart lifted. A breeze, I said suddenly. I want to be a breeze. A bit of wind. Her eyebrows went up. Wind? Yeah. I nodded, more certain with every word. When I'm happy, I'll rustle the trees and ring the wind chimes. When I'm mad, I'll race across the world and howl at the mountains. I'll go everywhere I want and see everything. No one can yell at me for taking up space. No one can tell me I'm too much or not enough. They won't even know it's me. I smiled. No one will have to worry about me. And I won't have to worry about them. The old woman studied me for a long moment. Then she laughed softly, a sound like leaves brushing against each other. As you wish. She pushed the bowl toward me. I lifted it with both hands and drank. Warmth slid down my throat, then spread through my whole body. Limbs, weight, edges, all of it began to dissolve, like sugar in hot tea. I grew lighter and lighter until I couldn't feel where I ended and the world began. The last thing I heard was the old woman's voice, gentle and distant. Go, little wind. Be free. Spring sunlight poured through an open window. Chloe stood in the doorway of the companion room, the one no one used anymore. It had been cleaned out, the cot folded and stored, but the air still felt strangely full. She was taller now. Healthier. The color in her cheeks looked natural, not the flush of fever. In her hands, she held a worn family photo. 4 faces smiled out from it: Dad, Mom, Chloe, and me. On the back, in crooked handwriting, were the words I'd once carefully scratched. I give my health to my sister. Happy birthday, Mom. Please always be happy. Chloe's fingers clenched around the edges until they crumpled. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't know. I didn't see. I was just a kid. Her shoulders shook. From outside, a breeze slipped in, nudging the doorframe, stirring the little dust motes in the air. She lifted her head. Lily? She asked softly. The breeze curled around her wrist, ruffling the bracelet she wore, a simple red string charm, matching the one Mom kept by the bed. She smiled through her tears. I'll live well, she promised. For both of us. At home, my old room had been restored. Mom made the bed every morning, smoothing the sheets until there wasn't a single wrinkle. My battered backpack, the one with the safety pin in the strap, was hung carefully on the chair like something precious instead of something embarrassing. Dad had quit smoking. The first week, he'd stood in the doorway a lot, staring at my little coin tin on the shelf, the one that had once held all my hopes for a new backpack and had ended up buying a cheap cake and 3 days of borrowed time. Now he picked it up with both hands, turning it slowly, like it might answer the questions pounding in his head. Whenever the wind chimes outside our window rang, he looked up. Lily? He'd murmur. Is that you? Mom used to hate drafts. She'd scold me for opening windows, for letting all the cold in, for making Chloe sick. Now, on days when the air moved and the curtains lifted, she set her jaw and left the window wide open. If you want to stay, she'd say under her breath, eyes shining, then stay. I won't close it this time. Sometimes, when she cooked sweet and sour ribs, she'd put an extra plate by the window. Try it, she'd whisper, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. It's still Grandma Evelyn's recipe. It's still your favorite. The breeze would slip in, lift the edge of the curtain, rattle the chimes just a little. No one answered her out loud. But in the gentle sway of the fabric, in the way the air wrapped around her tired shoulders, there was an answer she chose to believe. They all did. As for me, I raced over rooftops and under freeway overpasses, slid through cracks in old brick walls, chased dandelion fluff across empty schoolyards. I skimmed the surface of rivers, darted through billboards and ferry decks, stole hats off boys who laughed and grabbed for them in the park. I tangled in phone wires and shook loose dead leaves clinging to branches long after autumn. On hot days, I slipped through open car windows and cooled the backs of sweaty necks. On exam mornings, I rustled test papers and brushed the hair back from nervous kids' faces, leaving a little chill to wake them up. Sometimes, when I passed a hospital, I lingered at the windows. I didn't go inside. Not anymore. When I blew past the house where I used to live, the little charm hanging by the window clinked softly against the glass, red string dancing. Is that you, Lily? Mom would ask. Welcome home, Dad would say. I'd circle the house once, twice, listening to the sound of their voices, the clatter of dishes, the low murmur of the TV. I'd slip past Chloe's open window, stirring the papers on her desk, flipping a page open in the worn notebook where she now wrote her own thoughts, careful to read every line. Then I'd leave. There was a whole world to visit. Mountains I'd never seen. Oceans I'd never touched. Cities that glittered at night like someone had spilled stars across the ground. This time, I wasn't the extra child in the corner of the room. I was the breeze that made the curtains billow, the chimes sing, the trees whisper. I was the whisper that slipped through windows no one closed on me anymore. And I didn't belong to anyone. Goodbye, I breathed one last time, circling above the house where I had once tried so hard to be enough. The wind carried the word away, tearing it into pieces and scattering it over streets and rooftops and fields. This time, I was free. This time, I was the wind. And I wasn't going home.